Hi, welcome back to Real Auto Reports right here from Real Auto Ranch. We have the real video, the real review for you of this 2014 Kia Cadenza. I'm Jonathan McGrew, and we're going to jump in and take a look at all the details on this all new 2014. It's a car that has never been out from Kia before, so there's a lot to tell you. So let's jump in and hit the road. All right, so we are in the 2014 Kia Cadenza, all new for 2014 and all new to Kia. So let's see, what is it about this car that we really should talk about in this real video, the real review? Well, some of it is the positioning of the car itself. What is Kia trying to do here? You've got an Optima, and you can get that Optima super kitted out. So where's the Cadenza fit in? Well, if you look at the Cadenza and the Optima side by side, this has a more sedan-like look to it. It's going to be a little bit larger looking. It's going to have more headroom, more rear room, like more rear leg room, hip room, all of that. And the other thing is that it's just got this, like, it's like going from GS Lexus to, let's say, the LS Lexus, right? It's trying to take it a step up. So that's where they're positioning it. If you're familiar with the Hyundai brand, you know, a very close cousin to Kia, this is going to be right around the Azera or Genesis line. More the Azera. It's hard to say really because it still feels sportier to me than a Genesis, but still missing some of the luxury features that you might want standard across the platform. But all in all, it's going to fit right in that category. This Cadenza is really pretty cool. It's got nice features. One that I really want to point out in this real review is that, or this real video, is that it has this digital speedometer, and very much, the way I look at it is this gauge cluster has a very Cadillac ATS sense to it, yet this is a bigger car. The speedometer is completely digital, and then you have your trip computer in the middle where you get your range, your average miles per gallon. You also get some things like your double trips, so your trip A, trip B. And then you've got a whole host of things that you can set in there, including you can see where your music are, there's settings, all sorts of things that you use with these two buttons here on the lower part of the wheel. And if you're familiar with Kia, these are going to seem very familiar, not only from a placement perspective, but how they work. I always have to think about it a little bit when I get into the Kia because it is a slightly different function set than other cars, including the Hyundai Sonata. And we were in the Hyundai Sonata, and we've been in the Genesis, and it's a different sense of the layout. In fact, Kia has a more, well, at least the sense is that they have a more German layout based on the lineage of the people they've brought over into the car company to help define and direct the strategy for the design and the user interface. So Kia's doing a nice job here. So what is it about this Kia Cadenza that you really should know about? Well, I think it's a couple things. I think what you want to know is that this vehicle is powerful. It's 293 horsepower coming from a 3.3 liter direct injected V6. So if you think about that, that's going to be that 0 to 60 time in about 5.9 seconds. It's front wheel drive, and it's mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission with the Sportmatic mode. And that's really cool because down here in the lower part of the digital dash, you have the D. When you flip it over to the Sportmatic mode here, you have, or the manual mode, it turns kind of like a cube, turns it to the 6, and then you can downshift by pulling back or upshift by going up. So it is the standard setup, not the BMW setup. And then the other thing you can do is use the paddle shifters, which are back here on the wheel. And I like that. It's a sports sedan, but it's a luxury sedan that's got that sports feeling to it. And gets you all tongue-tied because it really does feel a lot more sporty than you might expect being a luxury type of vehicle. And I kind of like that because, when you really shift it down here and you get it into second and then you come up to this corner here and we're says 15 miles an hour. I don't think so. You go around like that and, 35 and you're good to go. It's got that sense that it can handle some fun and aggressive driving without, kind of going, well, I don't really like this. So one of the things that you want to know is how much is this car going to set you back? Well, Kia did have to change the price point a little bit on, you can't price this like an upper-end Optima because it's offering you more. It's got a little more space, a little more power, a little more luxury. So in this car, you're going to have, as tested, about a $41,000 price tag. But you get some really good features like the heated and cooled driver's seat, or heated and ventilated, heated passenger seat, rear sunshade, which you can turn on here from the console, your heated wheel, which you also turn on here from the console, which is a little bit different than some vehicles. Some are up, in the wheels and stuff like that, like the Forte that we recently tested. You also have lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, traction control, ABS, all of that stuff that you would expect from a luxury perspective and a safety perspective. Tons of airbags, memory seats for the driver, automatic fold-in mirrors that you can either turn off, fold in manually, like this. Okay, so you can do that, or you can leave them on auto so that when you lock the door of your Kia Cadenza, it indeed will fold them in for you to keep them from being taken off, like happens downtown in Denver. Some other neat things is it does have automatic lights and automatic wipers, which I think is really cool. And maybe this is becoming very common, but I still love it. I love the amount of light that this lets in. It's a power double sunshade roof, and then it lifts up, so it'll tilt and it'll slide back for you. Really nice. More so that's nice, though, is if you noticed when I slid that back, this has a suede-like interior headliner, which just gives it that little bit something extra, that little luxury touch, something that you would see in things like a BMW or a Jaguar or even the Lexus brand, where you're seeing this nice texture and materials being brought out throughout the car. And I guess that's where I come to how this really differs from cars like in its own family like the Optima, but also in its own class, is that you've got soft touch here, this beautiful two-tone with the wood on the wheel, upper part of the wheel here, the lovely, cream interior here, the whitish cream, just gives this a real high-end feel. Now, if I had kids, I wouldn't want to keep this clean by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure even I am going to be hard on this color. But it is a beautiful car, and I think $41,000 may seem like a lot for a Kia, but at the top of this package, to have everything, including the Infiniti sound system, which, by the way, and I think this is really cool, really tuned to this car. They have a deal with Infiniti. In fact, they have like a decade with Infiniti here with Kia. So they have specially purpose-built this system for the Kia Cadenza. And that means that you're getting the best sound possible out of this and the best range. And it does have a subwoofer, but you'll notice it's not in the back, in the side, in the trunk. No, it's in the middle of the back deck back there. And then you have mid-woofers around the car, and then you have your tweeters and your other range speakers. It's a really impressive system, and it sounds quite nice. And so I think it just, for the audiophile in your life, they're going to appreciate that Kia's really bringing it with this sedan. So you have to know that not everything is rosy in these car reviews, right? So what is it about this car that we don't like? What is it that we might want to see different? Well, I think from the perspective of when I look around this car and I drive it, an all-wheel drive option would be super nice. Another thing that I notice is that it's very revvy, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't seem quick, but it is. So I don't know if that's just because they've done so much with the sound editing in this car, because it is a super quiet ride. But I guess the point I'm getting at here is that some of the buttons, like this wheel you'll find in many other Kia models, you still know that you're not necessarily in a specially made luxury vehicle. And maybe you don't expect that. But there are some things that you look at that and you go, huh. So you have adaptive cruise, for example. That's awesome. But what you don't have is a power trunk opener or closer. It's kind of interesting because you do have the rear sunshade that goes up, but you don't have sunshades in the side windows. So there's just these little things that what I call the give and take about buying a value-oriented luxury brand. And Kia, no matter how you slice it, is still value-oriented. But you'll see, we did a special comparison on this car with the Jaguar XJL. And if you think it's unfair, you have to see this comparison, because the biggest difference is in the way they drive and in the finishes on the inside. This Kia Cadenza is just, it's eons above, or it's just levels above the Optima. Why? Because they've put a ton of attention to detail in it. But it's still not a BMW 5 Series. And that's okay, because you're not paying $65,000 for a car. But I guess what I'm getting at is you're not going to get the status and the drive-up appeal yet with a Cadenza. And if that doesn't matter to you, which honestly, if we're thinking about just life in general, it probably shouldn't. But if it doesn't matter to you, then this is a beautiful car. It drives well. It gets decent gas mileage at 19 city, 28 highway, and then a 22 mile per gallon combined. So it's not necessarily class leading, but it's good. It's actually right in line with the Nissan Maxima that's been out since '09. So, and you can get it optioned out very similarly to this vehicle right here. Something else that I do want to point out is that this car does have rear heated seats, and that's something we're starting to see more and more. In fact, you'll even see it on things like the Optima and the Sonata Hybrid that we've recently tested. So what I like about this car is it's fairly comfortable. It's got a lumbar support that's good. It's got a leg extender under your front legs, memory seats, all the features you'd want, push button to start, all of that I've mentioned. The thing that it won't give you is brand cachet yet. I think Kia will get there. I think in another probably 5 years or so, people are going to look at these cars very differently. An Equus is starting to really pull some brand awareness in the Hyundai line. This is only really getting up to the Genesis level. So I think we have a lot more to see from Kia, but I think it's going to continue to be this younger, sportier feel that we've been seeing all this time. And that's going to include, I think, feeling more like a BMW and less like a Mercedes to some degree, unless you're going for the high-end AMG, and then they're sporty. So Kia, you've done a good job. I like this car. I think it's going to make a lot of consumers really happy. My best advice to all of you out there looking for this entry-level, full-size luxury, and I call it entry-level because what you would cross-shop with this is the Kia Cadenza, the Hyundai Azera, or Genesis, because they have two that could fit in this category. You might look at a Nissan Maxima, or you might even be going over to some of the American models like the Dodge Charger, because you can get a very nicely equipped Charger for this price, with even more features actually. And so there's, and then the Chevrolet Malibus and Impalas. The Ford Fusion is a beautiful car in design and driving. So that's what you're going to cross shop with this car, is all of those, and even into the Taurus for Ford if you wanted a car that's even bigger in a footprint. So my recommendation is test drive, test drive, test drive. Do it early, do it often. See what car fits you and your personality, because this Cadenza is a winner from looks on the outside. It's got really high-end looks, great interior finishes, and you know they have a great warranty to back all of this up. So we'll have the wrap-up coming up for you next, right here, so stay tuned. All right, so that's the real video, the real review on this 2014 Kia Cadenza. It is an interesting vehicle because it's all new and it's their luxury line. If you're familiar with Hyundai, as I've said in our real first impressions, this is going to slot in right around that Azera Genesis line. It's going to be towards the upper end of your Maxima and even compete with your upper end Dodge Charger and some of the other luxury lines, considering the features, and that's what's really special. But I think the looks really deserve some credibility too for Kia, because they've got these lovely headlights and these lovely, almost neon looking accent lights or positioning lights. They're great, they look good. Lovely 19-inch wheels and features like the rear power shade. You also have climate control, heated and cooled driver's seat, heated seats all the way around, all 4 seats in the passenger area, 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds, and decent fuel economy, 19 city, 28 highway, all for just over $41,000 as tested. Kia deserves some kudos here, and we hope that the quality and all of that Kia has been continuing to move forward with some of the best warranties in the business will prove out that these vehicles will be on the road a long time. I'm Jonathan McGrew. This is Real Auto Reports from Real Auto Ranch. We'll see you down the road.